Greetings and welcome to From the Basement. In this video we're going to take a look at getting movement working in Lazarus from Chapter 4 of The Game Maker's Apprentice. So we've got our test level set up here from last time. So let's go ahead and start getting Lazarus moving. I'm going to close out the room for the moment and I'm going to go ahead and start in on Laz stand. Because that's our starting object. Oop, that's the sprite. I don't need to be looking at the sprite. There we go. Laz stand object. So how is this going to work? Well, we're going to use the arrow keys, and whenever the user presses an arrow key, and they'll have to press it for each movement, we don't just want to let them hold it down. Whenever the user presses an arrow key, Lazarus will move if able. And so the easiest low-hanging fruit is, of course, moving left and right, so let's do that. So we're going to add an event. We're going to add a key press, not keyboard. Remember, that's continuous. This is one off. So key press left. What are we going to do on the left? Well, first we have to ask a question. The only way we can move straight to the left is if there is nothing there. So in this case, there's nothing here, so we can move to the left. However, if Lazarus was right here, one to the left would be this cube, this wall, and that's no good. So we're going to go down to control. And we need to ask a question. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can actually ask this question. We want to know if it's safe to move someplace. So we could ask, is there not a collision? So if we've got to check, or we could check to see if there's a wall there, but that would be perhaps a little bit dangerous. We've got check to empty. We could check to see if that space is empty. We could check to see if there is a collision or a not collision. So I could say if there is not a collision over there, which is not what we're going to do, by the way, which is basically kind of the same as saying check empty. In other words, is this space empty? And that's the one we're going to use. That's the way the book uses it. So we need to say, okay, is the position to my left free? Well, how do I know it's to my left? Remember the coordinate system. If I am moving towards the left edge of the screen, I am decreasing my x. And everything is on a 40 by 40 grid. So if we check -40, 0 relative, that is very important. Don't forget that relative. Then we're basically saying check one square to the left. If it is empty, I can jump. So we'll do this. So if a position is collision free to the left, what we will do is then transition into Laz left. So we'll go to main 1. We will transition into a Laz left. So that will play our animation, but we still need to handle making sure that we actually move. So let's open up the Laz left. And what we will do here is the animation plays like Lazarus is in his starting position and then moves to the left. So we will add in, and once that animation is done, we're in our new position. So we will add in an animation end event. So we'll go into Other, Animation End. And then from there, we shall do a jump. And we will jump to -40, 0 relative. Because remember, Laz left is just simply going to play the animation of us jumping. It's not actually going to move the object. So we need to jump to the new position. And that should be enough to be able to test moving to the left. Now, the first time you hit run on this, it might take it a moment because there's all the sprites and the sounds and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for a moment while this is loading. All right, and we're back. So I should be able to hit the left arrow. And, oh, well, we got a couple of bugs there. The main one being is that he kept on going. And I know what happened there. It was me trying to go too fast and not being careful. In addition to, we need to change back into our Laz stand. So we've got our Laz left. So after our animation ends, not only do we need to jump to that position, but we need to change back into a last stand. So main one transition into a last stand. Okay. Hit the play button. Should go lickety split this time because we don't have to compile anything. There we go. That's what I was expecting. Except for the whole disappearing into the floor thing. Play that again. Well, I was expecting the disappearing into the floor thing, but that's a bug. It's not supposed to be happening. So if I jump, it looks like I'm disappearing into the floor for a moment and then appearing in the correct spot. What is going on with that? Let's go take a look at our sprites. So if we open up Last Stand, our origin is in the top left-hand corner of the image. Works out fine. But now let's open up the Last Left. Ooh, this is a little bit different. The origin is still in the upper left-hand corner, but Lazarus is down here. And so all of a sudden, the origin point relative to our little slime ball friend here has moved. That's why it appears that Lazarus is jumping down into the floor, because remember, it's going to put the origin in the exact same spot. The origin will not move. That is our object's XY location. And so when we switch to this image, all of a sudden, Lazarus is down in the ground. How we fix this is by altering the origin on this so the origin is correct relative to the slime ball. So it should be roughly right around there, because that makes the origin the same as it is here, relatively speaking. And so, of course, the actual origin we need is 4040 on the Last Left. And let's go ahead and fix our other sprites while we're at it. Our Last Right is going to need to be fixed. Now, in this case, we wouldn't want to put the origin right there at 4040. We just simply want the origin right there. So in this case, it would be a 0, 0, 40. And our jump left, jump right, same thing. We would need 40, 40 for jump left. Remember, we always want that origin to look like it's in the upper left-hand corner if all you had was the picture of Laz right there. And our jump right needs to be fixed as well. And this would just simply be 0, 40. Again, in that upper left-hand corner if all we had was Laz. So now that that has been fixed, I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button again. And there we go. He is moving the way he's supposed to. Let's go ahead and get right functionality put in here. So I'm going to do an add event step. What am I doing? No, not a step event. I'm like skipping like 5 steps ahead. Add event key press right. Control check empty. Since we're moving right, we're going to check 40 0 relative. Make sure you check that relative. And actually, you know what? I am going to uncheck that just to show you what this bug might look like if you forget to check the relative. So check the relative. I'm just showing the bug. And in that case, I would want to transition. So main one transition, Lazarus, Laz right. And then let's bring up the Laz right. Ow. Close out my sprites, so I stop selecting my sprites. Laz right. Add event, other, animation end, jump, 40 0 relative, and transition, or change instance, back into a Laz stand. And let's see if that works, which of course it won't on mine because I have a bug. So I jump to the left. I can't jump through that, which is correct, although I should be able to jump out on top of it. I haven't put that in. And oh, hey, what's this? We have a ninja slime that can jump straight through blocks. possibly cool, but ninja slimes aren't what we're supposed to be having. Again, this is that absolute issue. Because I forgot to check relative, I am checking the absolute coordinate x40, y0, which happens to be this block right here, which will always be empty. So if you've got ninja slimes, it most likely means that you forgot a relative someplace. So I'm going to go back into last stand if a position is collision free and check it as relative. Okay, so we got standing. Jumping is pretty much the same thing. If a position is collision free, that means we can move left. But what if that position isn't free? What if there's a one high block here? Well, then we need to check to see if this position is free. So we will go back over here. So we'll start with left again. If a position is collision free, control. And just to make this a little bit like really clear, I'm going to drag in an else, and even though we don't need it, I'm going to drag in blocks. Strictly optional on these. It just helps visually, at least in my opinion, make things very clear. Now, what is this else guy here? Well, we're asking a question, and if that question is false, then and only then do I want to do this. Excuse me. I don't want to just simply put in a check to see if this position is collision free, because what will happen then is I'll always jump. So if I am here, think about this logic. Remember, computers are going to do exactly what you tell them to do. If I check to see if this position is collision free, and then I check to see if this position is collision free, well, of course that position is going to be collision free, and so I'm going to jump up here. It's not what I want. I only want to check to see if that top square is empty if the bottom square was collided, so hence the use of the else. If this, else, well, we still need to do a check, so I'm going to do a check for collision free. Now, I'm still moving to the left, so that would be negative 40. Now the y, I'm trying to move towards the top of the screen, which would be negative 40 again. Relative. Don't forget that. And I'm going to drag in some more blocks. And if that is indeed the answer, then I shall change instance into a las jump left. I shall bring up the las jump left object. And basically the same thing again here. I'm going to add an other. I'm going to add an animation end. And I'm going to do a jump. Remember, we're moving to the left, so negative 40. We're moving up, so negative 40. Relative, don't forget that. That is the singular most common source of bugs, by the way, in Lazarus, forgetting the relative. And then we need to transition back into a las stand. Let's verify that that works, going to the left. And we are going to have a small bug here. It's going to jump up, yay! And again, we got the ninja slime here. Apparently he can like walk on air, which is not what we want, but we haven't added in that check yet. Alright, so left works fine. Let's go ahead and get right added in. So, let's see here. I'm not going to talk this one through. I'm just going to go ahead and go through and do it. Other than to point out, I'm moving to the right now, so my x is positive 40. Let's jump right. Perform movement, okay. Just a quick double check. Collision free, 40, negative 40, relative. Last jump right, okay. Last jump right object. Other. No, not update. Animation in. Jump again, moving to the right. Not sure what key I just hit. And transition back. That should be enough to test. So, hit the play button. And yep, I was able to jump up to the right just fine. Now let's fix this whole walking on air thing. Kind of cool, but it's not in the design docs. So what we need to do now is, well, actually there's a couple of things. First, we need to prevent Laz from moving if he's in the air. Lazarus does not have any air control. Once he's over the air, he needs to fall straight down. So that's the first step. We need to stop our left and right movements from moving if there's nothing underneath Laz. So I'm going to start off with left here again. And what are you doing open? Okay, I'm going to close out jump right there. So we're going to start back off with moving left. And this time, under control, I'm going to ask the question, is there a collision? Because I want to know, is there a collision directly underneath my feet? If there is a collision directly underneath my feet, then I can do this. So I'm going to move in the check collision. I'm going to drag it all the way up here on the top so that it is the top level action. Don't worry if you misdragged it and you ended up with right there or something. You can just take it and drag it up and reposition it. So no worries about if you didn't drag it in perfectly the first time. Now, how do I want to check this? Well, I'm going to check 0.8 relative solid. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to look 8 pixels down, and you'll understand why the 8 in a moment, and see, is there a collision there? Because if I am right on top of a solid object, there should be a collision there. There's also another way of doing this, but I'll deal with that later. So, if there is a collision directly underneath me, and again, the blocks are completely unnecessary, but I like them because it does a really good job of visually showing you what everything belongs to. So this makes it very clear that this all belongs to this question. So if there is not a collision, we won't move, which means if I run it right now, I'm going to get stuck once I jump off of that leftmost block. So I'm jump up, jump over, and I'm stuck. Going to the left I can't, because the right we don't have that action in yet. But I can't jump anymore to the right. Or, to the left. And so we'll do the same thing on the right. And control. I'm already on control. Actually, you know what? Book. Collision check. Do it that way if you want. I want to show a different way here. And I'm going to say check object. I'm going to check to see if there is a wall directly underneath my feet. This has some implications later on, which I will talk about. It's basically doing the exact same thing, and that's really kind of important to remember when you're doing game development. There are usually many different paths to approach a problem. There are many different solutions to a problem. Some solutions are simpler than others, and some solutions might make things a little bit more complicated now, but might make life really easy later. So you always got to keep that in mind. There's always more than one approach to a problem. So this will basically do the same thing. So test this, hit the play button. Now you can jump up, and frozen. Can't move. All right, so now that we've frozen ourselves, how do we make ourselves fall? To do this, we're going to need a step event on Laz stand. So make sure you're in Laz stand, add event, just a regular old step event. what we're going to do here is we're going to check to see if there's anything underneath our feet. If there's nothing underneath our feet, we need to fall. So we're going to use check empty, and we are going to look 0, 8, relative. And this is the point where I want to actually explain why 8. We've got to make sure that we stay on this grid. Otherwise, things are going to get really messed up. Let's say for a moment that instead we're checking 8 units down, but let's say we're falling 10 units at a time. What's going to happen is that we're going to get off the grid, and we're either going to end up floating off the floor, or we're going to wind up slightly embedded into the floor, and it's just not going to be good. So since we have to keep things locked to this 40 pixel grid, we need to make sure that whatever our movement scale is, it fits well with this grid. So 8 goes into 40 quite nicely 5 times, and so that's why we're choosing the 8. That also tells us our speed. We're going to be falling 8 pixels per step, or in other words, it's going to take us 5 steps to fall a single block. Pretty reasonably quick. So 0, 8, solid, relative. And then we'll come back over here to move, and we'll say jump 0, 8, relative. So now we should fall. And yep, there we go. So I can fall to the left, I can fall to the right, I can jump up here, I can jump down. And if I jump down here, whoop. And now I've got to close it out and restart. Now this is one thing, again, this is what I mentioned about how, didn't mean to start the debugger, of how cheat codes, they were actually, the reason why they were originally in games weren't for players. It was for the developers to test the games. And generally speaking, well, developers do like putting Easter eggs in. It has a long history, starting with Atari not wanting to give developers credits. And so some of the devs got angry about that and snuck in an Easter egg where they gave themselves credit for the game. So, but the primary reason for why you have cheat codes is development. So I'm going to go into last stand here, and I'm going to add a key press event, and letters R. And what I'm going to have that do is I'm going to have that reset the room. So it's a key press R event, and I'm going to come here, and under rooms, main one, rooms, there's an arrow going into the room. That says restart room. It doesn't restart the game. It just resets that one particular room. Now, jump up over here, get myself stuck, verify that I can't get out, hit R. Oh, and let's see here. And apparently reset room, I guess, might have gotten bugged out, so it's not working. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit it with a sledgehammer and say restart the game. And now if I press the R, you can see Lazarus jumps. So that will make testing things a lot easier without having to close and rerun the game. All right, well, we've got our movement in. The movement is all done. So the next step is going to be getting our boxes created. And so, until then.